and elaborate as to what skill they have that would make them such a good teacher, or a superhero that would really manage diabetes well, and why you think that would have a good skill to go along with managing diabetes. So let's see if anybody can put their thinking caps on here and come up with a good option for us. I see someone's calling out for help. That's a good option. You can use your family and friends in the room. So Iron Man would definitely have some really impressive gadgets for sure. That's a good one, Shauna. Thank you. We've played this game with in the type 1 community before, but I haven't heard anybody with teachers. So I'm looking for a really good teacher superhero. My wife is a teacher, so the Hulk, I'm assuming that's a teacher reference. That would be a good teacher. I like that, Professor X, knowing what everyone was thinking. Very good. See if any others have a thought on that. One of the ones that's my favorite, and just to give a little insight on my experience with diabetes, is Professor Gadget, which is a pretty good throwback. But Professor Gadget just had so many tools that would pop out and come in handy in the craziest of scenarios. And living with type 1 diabetes for that long, being on injections and finger poking and CGMing and all of that has required a lot of creative problem solving and trying to figure out some tools along the way. So that's one of mine. Oh yeah. Thanks for the support on the Inspector Gadget one there, Robin. Thank you. All right. So I thought we would just welcome our friends here, and thanks for those that have been sharing where you're from and how long you've been in the school system for, or how long you've had diabetes for. So tonight is a night where we hope to share and connect with each other. So right now we've got some people muted as the call is getting underway, but we love that you're sharing through the chat, and we'll have a couple of breakout rooms in a couple of moments where you can select a poll answer, as well as turning on your mic and sharing verbally with our friends here in the community. So thank you so much for joining us here tonight. I wanted to say a thank you to some of our friends that are joining, but first, why don't we go through our agenda for tonight? So as you can see, we have some friends from a few different provinces, and we have both school staff as well as those that are living with type 1 in their family themselves. And our, yeah, thank you. Just our slideshow is getting a little excited there. So what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight is a one-team approach. And even though we have folks from all across the country, I've met people with diabetes and those supporting them from all around the world. And I keep on hearing a lot of similar themes, that when we're kind of on the attack mode, nobody's really getting along and we're not making very much progress. And one of the reasons that we call it I challenge diabetes is that diabetes is always challenging me. And so as I connected with other people and realized that whether or not it's a teacher, my coach, my family, diabetes seemed to add some challenge to everyone's life. But when we take that challenge on together as a team, it can make a big difference. And we're going to talk more about that. I'm also going to share a little bit more about my story, and we're going to hear from a couple of our friends on the team here, and we're going to get into a breakout session. We're going to have a school staff breakout, as well as a parent and a kids breakout room as well, so that the kids can connect with one of our leaders and be supported, and the parents will have a parent chat to go through as well. And then we're going to have a wrap up where we come back together, and so each of the groups will share a couple of the insights that they chatted about in the breakout, and then we're also going to get to see a little bit more detail of what some of the coolest technology is out there for managing diabetes at the end, if you're interested in that, and answer any Q&A at that same time. So let's introduce a few of our friends that are on the call. You might be wondering who I am if you're new to ICD. So my name is Chris Jarvis, and I started iChallenge Diabetes back in 2017. And as I mentioned, I've had diabetes for a long time, but I was able to go all the way to the Olympics with type 1 diabetes and race for Team Canada. Coincidentally, I'll be racing next week with the national alumni team, which is pretty exciting. We'll be going down to Boston for a race there. And then we also have Robin, who's joining us. Robin is just new to the school system with her daughter just joining in to junior kindergarten. And we've also had some virtual classes with you and seen you in person. So thanks, Robin, for joining us here tonight. We also have Tracy down in the bottom middle there. Tracy is someone who started our DiaBuddies program with me and helped me to connect with so many other schools. First connecting with her son at her school. So we'll hear a little bit more from her today. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us. She's also our program manager at iChallenge Diabetes. We have Morgan up above here, who is actually someone that I met when she was very young. And we got to go through some of the struggles of living with diabetes together in some of our outdoor adventure programs with iChallenge Diabetes. And now we've been really lucky as she's graduated. She's been taking on a leadership role in our programming and doing an amazing job. So thank you, Morgan, for joining us tonight. And then we also have a couple of friends from Medtronic who have graciously sponsored tonight's program. And so we have above the picture on the screen there. Sorry, my screen is got all sorts of things. There's Catherine. Yes, thank you. Catherine is up in the top right, and she's been with Medtronic for quite a while. And then Kayla is newer to the Medtronic team, but someone that I've known for a long time because we're both in the type 1 community for a long time. I've learned so much from Kayla. So thank you for both of you for joining us here tonight. So next up, just want to review, iChallenge Diabetes has been around since 2007. And along the way, we were doing these school tours and we realized the importance of that opportunity. So we made the program a lot more formalized in 2017. And so since then, we've reached over 40,000 staff and students. And the whole concept here is just as we have Diabetes Awareness Month, which is coming up in November. Many of you must be aware of that. But the misconceptions are still so prevalent out there. So what we're trying to do is help youth and the staff at the school to share the truth of what diabetes is. And it's a combination of a message of overcoming an obstacle. And so we partner up with this picture here. As you can see, we actually have 3 youth who live with diabetes that are going to this young little girl's school and able to help her explain how she manages her chronic illness and how she overcomes it every day at school. So that's what we're doing here with DiaBuddies. And one of the most important things, if you can go one more forward, Imran, is the ability to share when our blood sugars might be off and how we can check it so that everyone feels comfortable with doing that in front of each other. That's one of the things that I love doing. You might see a couple of pictures here of some of the kids in front of all the students. And so our blood sugars can go off at any moment throughout the day. And it's important for us to be prepared. And part of that preparation is making sure those around us understand and know what's going to happen. So let's talk a little bit about our one team approach. Tracy?
I define myself and among all these friendly faces. So the one team approach is, it is what it says it is. And it means that school staff, whether it's school administrators, like principals, whether it's an LRT, an EA, a teacher, students and parents and guardians are all on the same team. We have the same goal. So this is what we're going to be talking about in both, in all 3 breakout rooms, one for staff, one for parents, and one for students. And we'll just go through it real brief now, and we can talk about it later. So understanding other people's points of view, the one team approach, what is it? And what does that look like? You want to develop a communication plan, very clear. You want to be an effective listener. You want to be positive. You want to give of your time to other people. Have a clear goal, which is a big, big, big one we'll talk about. Develop empathy and show your appreciation. And I think we can all do that and, build those positive relationships between the school and home, because we're all on this one team together. You're up next, Chris.
Thanks. So as mentioned, I've had diabetes for a long time. I was diagnosed at 14 years old. My younger sister was diagnosed at just 5 years old, actually. So she was just in kindergarten at the time. And I know firsthand how you can see something without really knowing or understanding it. So I really appreciate those from the school staff that are here today to learn a little bit more, to hear from some of our friends here. And so I guess what I wanted to share was just how much someone can look in full control, and then also in behind the scenes have this medical condition adjusting and creating havoc. And so what I think is most important to recognize is that in the school system, what we're trying to do is normalize. We want to normalize healthy routines. We want to make sure that it's possible for someone to be able to test and to be frequently in control of that scenario. So for me, when I was first diagnosed, this is 27 years ago, and I was supposed to test at breakfast, test at lunch, and test at dinner time. And so there were many times in my classrooms where my blood sugars would be off and I wasn't sure what to do. And so I wouldn't want to interrupt the teacher. I wouldn't want to, interrupt the rest of the class if somebody was speaking or working on a project. And so oftentimes I would let these symptoms settle in far too long, to the point that I was shaky and weak, and I could have done something about it much faster. And I guess one of the benefits of sharing this is that I can also share that because I had supportive people around me, I had a good team, I was able to continue on. And that picture right there is my partner that I raced in the Athens Olympic Games in 2004. Been able to win a gold medal at the Pan Am Games. And I've been able to support a lot of growth and development in the diabetes community after graduating as a chemical engineer, deciding to take on this initiative and to start a charity that would reach out and meet many of the people that are on the call today from British Columbia, Alberta, and all across Ontario as well. So what I wanted to really emphasize here is that I've met a lot of really well-intentioned staff from the school that might not realize, because they've had one student who is very independent, that's not going to be the same for all. And for me, I really needed that support to learn how to manage my diabetes at school. And it was through certain teachers that were able to pull me aside and encourage me to take better care of myself. That really helped me to get all the way to the Olympics. So that's a little bit about me, but we also wanted to connect with you. So yeah, let's ask a poll. And so I'm wondering if you could share with us what grades you either teach or attend. And if you could throw up the poll for me, that'd be great. Oh, sorry, there's a poll that's going to pop up on your screen. Thank you so much for typing in.
Can everybody see the poll?
So there's two questions. The second question is, what do you think is the #1 barrier to learning with type 1 diabetes?
Oh, I'm seeing some votes starting to come in. Perfect. We'll give it another 10 or 15 seconds. I think there might be just a bit of a lag there. So
again, we've got your what grade are you attending or teaching? And then also what the #1 barrier is to learning with type 1 diabetes. One of the options is communication, looks pretty popular with 25% right now. Technology, time away from class due to diabetes. We have rigid rules, access to insulin and low treatments, and blood sugar variability, lots of highs and lows.
Okay, we've got 70% of people who voted, so 5 more seconds I'll give you. All right, I'm going to end the poll. And I know I can share this. Share results. Oh, there we go. It is laggy, just takes a minute.
Yes.
All right. Can you see
So you
the,
can see here we have,
I'm sorry?
I was just going to say that you can see here that we have a nice spread of people from across kindergarten, grade 1-3, with the most in grade 1 to 3, grade 4-6, and 7-8. We have a few people representing there as well. And then we do have a few others. Tracy, how do you feel about these barriers?
Yeah, well, and I know there might be other barriers. I'm glad to see that the rigid rules didn't, get really any votes. And those were meant to be either the school rules or the parents' rules, right? So that was for everybody. Access to insulin low treatment, we've got that. So blood sugar variability, wow. And communication, and time away from class due to diabetes. I can relate to all of those things. And we're going to talk about some of that in our breakout rooms. Thanks for voting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really do appreciate that, and the time away from, blood sugar variability and the time away from class, those two go really hand in hand. And so when I think back, I mentioned that I studied chemical engineering, and while I was doing that, I remember a specific test that was in physics that I was trying to read the answers. So I read the questions, and I was reading it over and over again. So I think good routines can make a huge impact. And we're going to talk a little bit more about strategies like that tonight. But that has been a big factor in my success, is making sure that I have good routines, that I can check in and I have access. So I saw nobody said access to insulin and low treatments, but I've learned to bring them everywhere that I go, even out in that boat. When I'm at the Olympic starting line, I'm going to have access to my low supplies, my testing equipment, and make sure that it's all right there with me. And somebody who's much newer at the school system game with type 1 diabetes, Robin, would you mind sharing with us a little bit about your experience?
Sure. So new to the school system, but not quite so new to diabetes. My daughter Ailey was diagnosed when she was 8 months old. And she is almost 4. Next month, she's going to be 4. So we've been at this for just over 3 years. However, she's only been in school for 2 weeks. So we had a little bit of a challenge with the school year this year, because we're in Ontario, and most of, for young children, most of the diabetes care is done by nursing staff. And there's no nurses this year. There's a nursing shortage all across the province, and there's no nurses available to take care of Ailey, who's only 3. So we had quite a few struggles this year, and she actually wasn't allowed to enter school at the beginning of the school year for a few weeks. She was basically banned. Chris actually was phenomenal, and we attended online school for the first week. So she did get to join in on a first day of school, which was pretty adorable. But it has definitely been a struggle. Now, we still don't have a nurse, but we have been working with the school and with the superintendents and the principal and the vice principal. I've reached out to, obviously, I Challenge Diabetes. I reached out to JDRF. I reached out to Diabetes Canada. I was put in contact with the Canadian Pediatric Society, who has been so supportive. Our endo clinic, everyone has been phenomenal and is working together to provide support to the school. And Ailey has been at school for the last 2 weeks. And we have trained the staff to monitor her blood sugar levels, and they will give low treatments. And then myself and my in-laws go in every day at nutrition breaks and give her insulin. So we're trying to kind of baby step it up and get everybody comfortable and have more awareness as to what diabetes is and what her care looks like. And they're taking on a little bit more responsibility as it goes. So I had the benefit of her being in daycare for 3 years. So I had phenomenal support from the daycare staff, and we did a lot of training that way. So now I'm trying to take that training and put it over to the school. So that's about it.
Thank you, Robin. And I think one of the things that I look back at when I'm working with people like you, Robin, is to realize that not everybody has that skill set and knows how to educate others about diabetes. And so I applaud you and so many other parents who have taken on that role. I was, in a lesser fortunate scenario where I was diagnosed and kind of went into school without really knowing how to teach my teachers about it or even mention it to some of them. So I think it's really important to see all of us here tonight. It's great. And also to value that people have brought this info and want to share it. And even if we're trying to learn along the way. So when we're going along, we have exciting new technology like this little tube here, this Baqsimi. And what they found is that with this newer technology, we reduces the necessity of really quality training. They did a test where people just stumbled across this treatment and were able to give it with a high degree of success just based on the instructions on the package. This is something that can bring someone back from a very dangerous low blood sugar. But then with training, it elevates that success ratio up to 97% of people who are able to successfully deliver this with a little bit of training. So I applaud everyone for being here tonight. And we're going to break off and we're going to talk a little bit in our parent group. The kids are going to go off into the kids group, and the staff are going to go into a staff breakout room with me.
Chris, you have the Baqsimi slide first.
Okay, I'm going to go into it first. Yeah. There it is. So as we just mentioned, the success ratio going up so significantly. We talked about low blood sugars or blood sugar variability being the biggest impediment to learning at school. And as I mentioned in that test that I was in university, mind you, I was getting to the point that I couldn't read the words on the page. And so having school staff, my coach, those are things that I learned to do over time, but realizing that it could be as simple as having a little sugar tablet, a juice box, or if those things have been missed and the blood sugar gets so severe that we need an emergency treatment like Baqsimi, then this is the newest version of glucagon, which glucagon is a naturally occurring hormone. And doctors say that there's no risk of administering this if a student is low and is end up passing out in school, that we're able to administer this very rapidly. It's just a little nasal package here. And it's got the instructions actually right on the bottle, which is really hard to see with the glare, but there's just 2 instructions here. One is to put it into your nose. The other one is to push to insert the nasal mist. And that is a hormone that will enable the body to release its own sugar, to release and to raise our blood sugar. And it can be done that fast. So it can change someone from unconscious to conscious within a matter of minutes, which is why it's a very valuable hormone. And we're very grateful for it because the previous version was a large needle that needed to be mixed and was very hard to consider. So we wanted to make sure that we shared this exciting news, something that came out during the pandemic. So it was a little bit hard to keep grasp on, but it's something that can really be a great tool in your toolkit. Okay, and I think we're now, what I'd suggest was that we could have the hand raise button.
Yeah.
And I think that'll help us to target who might want to share.
All right.
And I'll
It looks like I've got Robin from the parent group. Anybody else? Just Robin, so she wins. Oh, wait. And Tara?
Yeah, I think Tara wants to share from our group as well.
Okay, perfect. Tara, do you want to go first?
Okay. Am I on? Am I live?
You are.
Okay. So I was a part of the teacher group, but I'm also a mom to a type 1 diabetic. And I think the biggest thing to take away from this session and maybe through our discussion is, as a teacher with a student with type 1 diabetes, is to be willing to learn from the student, be willing to share your feelings, share that maybe, you know, you're learning this new, you're making mistakes, and you're kind of going along that journey with them, and being empathetic towards them, and understanding, and just, I think teachers naturally, that's why they're teaching, is because they care for students. So that in itself is so important, and that student knows that of their teacher, that they care and they're willing to listen and support them and help them through this. So I think that that is the biggest thing, because kids know, kids can see these things and they understand these things. So that would be my biggest thing I take from this.
All right. Chris, you have your hand up. Did you want to? You're muted though, I think.
Yes, thank you. I don't think I'm muted.
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so one of the other things that I thought would be really valuable to share back to the parents and students is that the staff were talking about just this whole learning curve for them. And so I think it's really valuable for us living with this every day to recognize that it takes a long time to figure it out. And even when you do, there's still ups and downs. And so showing that appreciation, and what we talked about was just that, yeah, that empathy that the teachers are having to take on in this role. But also to recognize that there's these changes that happen. And so our staff were talking about just like trying to learn more. And it's kind of like a one step at a time type of process. So we talked about going along on the path and figuring out how to take that next step. And you can't try and get it all in one go. You can't get it all in one lesson. You can't, it takes patience to keep working forward. And that's the big goal, is to keep making strides forward. And that's what I saw tonight from our staff. How about you, Shauna?
Mute myself. Oh, there we go. I think I got it. Okay, so the biggest thing that I took away was when I think it was Chris that said, making sure that your student is being a helper sometimes and not always being helped. I never thought of it. Like, I know that there's a lot of attention drawn, the thing beeps and there's an iPad and there's a this, and I'm gym mode yelling across the room or whatever. And so I know that there's a lot of attention on that. And I'm very aware that she's feeling sort of like kind of embarrassed sometimes about that, or wondering what people are thinking. And so that was really helpful that Chris said that, is putting her in that role of being a helper so that she feels empowered, even if it's just, taking something to the office or whatever. But you can always do something bigger too. But I love that idea of making sure that she feels like she's not always like, I mean, some of the kids in the class have said things like, you have to be really good at math to have diabetes. And I'm like, that's cool, right? Like, that's a cool statement. And even she had said the other day, like, one of my superpowers is being able to drink juice while I'm asleep. And I was like, whoa, in my head. But one of the other kids goes, well, it's a good way to keep it's a good way to keep yourself hydrated. Like, they don't even really understand, but I love this kind of conversation that's hopefully helping some confidence. So thank you very much for the teacher group and talking to us about that.
All
Noah,
right.
did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to say how I agree very much with this strategy. As a student with type 1 diabetes myself, I always feel kind of embarrassed when the nurse kind of comes inside and, instantly goes to my table, and my class is all looking at the nurse because she's walking inside, and then, everyone's ending up looking at my desk, and it feels weird, right? But in the end, it feels good because I'm able to help myself in the end. I'm pretty independent with my diabetes as well. And it also feels good at school because I end up helping a lot of people instead of always being the helped, right? I always help people with their math work if they're stuck. I'm always willing to do a job for the teacher as long as my work is finished. For example, the other day I was helping the teacher clean up after a science experiment we had done in class. The counter at the sink was all wet. It was just a huge thing, but I helped the teacher clean up everything and sanitize everything. And it's just such a good feeling to help others out. That's why I volunteer here.
Thanks so much, Noah. You really spoke to one of the main tenets of building these positive relationships is being helpful, right? When you're helpful to someone, they want to help you back. And the other part is that we're all on the same team. So thanks so much for sharing. You always have lots of good points to make. I think we're going to really quickly get our friend Robin to share just a brief summary of what we talked about in the parent group.
Sure. We talked a lot about kind of being partners with the school and with the whole school community. And one good thing that came out, or a good way to think about it, is going to them and saying, like, how can we support you? What can we do to make this easier? Is it buying a package of juice boxes to keep in the classroom, or what can we do to help? We also talked about the differences between the provinces and how things are different here in Ontario than BC, and having IEPs and plans of care. And at one school, there was an individual learning plan that the school was not receptive for, and how we can kind of broach that and maybe get some kind of plan in place so that there are things in place if blood sugars are high or low, that maybe that's not the right time to be taking a test, and to be able to excuse that. There's a lot of differences there. But really just there's a lot of positivity of having teachers on board, principals on board, schools on board. One school, they've got an iPad for the classroom, so Dexcom can be followed on the classroom iPad, which was really great. My daughter's actually, they're getting an iPad for her classroom too. So people are a lot more aware, and there's more technology that the school is willing to get to, which I thought was really good. And then that communication piece, right? And not just the teachers and the EAs and the ECs in the classroom, but also lunchroom supervisors came up. It's important for our kids to eat the food that they're being given and given insulin for. And if your lunchroom supervisor is not aware, then that can be a problem. So kind of bringing that communication a little bit further to include everyone in the classroom. So the communication was big, emailing schools, calling them, lots of different ways. And if you really want to get your kids to kind of fall in line, then I guess you embarrass them when they're in that grade 6, 7, 8. That kind of came up a few times, right? When parents and grandparents show up at school, they don't like that so much. So that was another tool, I guess, to use to get some kids to follow along. So it was really good conversation.
Thanks so much, Robin. I definitely think you covered everything. So we introduced Morgan McDonald at the beginning, but the parents and staff didn't really get to meet her because she was in the student room. So I'm going to call on Morgan for a minute to share. I know Noah already shared a little bit, but maybe Morgan can share a little bit of a summary about what went on there.
Yeah, so we kind of were a little all over the place, but we started kind of by sharing our own backstories, how we got diabetes, how we came to be part of the community. And a little bit about our management styles and how we all use different devices and different machines. And then we shared some of our common tips and tricks for school. Noah was really helpful in the conversation. He was definitely chiming in with a lot of tips that I could use myself, quite honestly. But the main thing we took away is that we're all different. My dog is behind me. That we're all different, and we all handle it different, and there's no one size for everybody, that we all have to do it the way that works best for us.
There is no wrong.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. I'm going to throw it back to Chris. Oh, Chris is giving you applause there, Morgan.
Thanks there. And I think one of the things on our agenda, were we going to share a little bit about some advanced technology? Is that our next, or should we have questions first?
We're sharing, we're having our friend Kayla O'Connell from Medtronic. So she is a rep there. She's a pump user. Oh my gosh, she has a bebe. Like, there's so much I could say about Kayla, but Kayla, I'll let you take over now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Kayla, that I know in our staff session that there was a lot of talk about the technology. So it's important to just recognize that everybody's got their own choice in their system, but it's good to know what's out there. And as Kayla will show you here, using this type of technology can help to give you a really good start to the day, which is definitely different than back in the past. So most mornings, someone using a system like this will wake up in range, but I'll let Kayla speak more to it. So that's why we wanted to offer this, and thanks Medtronic for the support. Kayla, take it away.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I also live with type 1 diabetes, like Tracy mentioned, and I've had diabetes. I was diagnosed when I was 18, but definitely you're going to talk a little bit about technology, and it's been such a privilege, especially, I was in the teacher room listening in to seeing how much information you guys want to gather and really how technology can help. Not sure if this is the first slide or not, Imran. Was there one before this, or just because I'm not sharing it, I'm not sure. There we go, perfect. So I'm just going to briefly talk about what Medtronic has to offer right now, but like Chris said, I understand everyone's sort of at a different part in their diabetes, maybe still on injections, some using CGM, some not. But just to speak to the 770G system that we do have available, and some of the features that could help for teacher, parent, student living with type 1 diabetes. And one of the things is automation. So automation has really sort of changed the game in sense of, what we were using before, whether that was multiple daily injections or pumps with set background insulin or basal rates, and really catering to the idea that living with diabetes every day is different, right? So all of us know, whether we're the teacher, the parent, or the person living with diabetes, that we could do the same thing every single day and we're going to have different results, right? You think you've nailed it, and then the next day, nope, you didn't nail it, right? And so that can be really frustrating. And it's hard to sort of predict how diabetes is going to act. So with automation, what it's doing is it's really looking at those trends and seeing where your blood sugars are going and adjusting the insulin every 5 minutes, sort of how all of you that are living with a working pancreas, how that's all working, right? It's going with the flow of your day, and that's the idea of automation, as well as smartphone connectivity. So a lot of us obviously have our phones in our hands. I'm sure like it's within arm's reach right now. So to have technology that's connecting to our smartphones is great, right? Because then we can see that information. And what's really nice is that with our system, we have both the CGM information, so the sensor information, as well as the pump information all on one app. So whether you're the student living with diabetes, whether you are the parent or the teacher, you can actually also have an app to see that information. So you can see things like, okay, my child had a low blood sugar, but I can see that it's starting to go up, or my child has a high blood sugar while they're at school, but I can see that insulin was administered to bring that blood sugar down. And then that way, sometimes like we've talked about independence, we can pull back a little bit too, because you can kind of see everything, the big picture of everything, not just the blood sugars, but what's happening, right? Other features like seeing how much insulin's in the reservoir, right? We've all been sort of heading out the door and realized that we forgot to fill our reservoir or heading to bed. And so being able to, scroll through our Instagrams, all our social media channels, but then also see our pump information on the same device, I think is a really cool feature of it. Next slide. The other feature would be the software updates. So just like our phones, we're able to update technology that way too, which is really awesome, because totally, when we look back, we didn't have that type of technology, and so much has come a long way. Even I've lived with diabetes for 12 years, and to see these changes is so great. Next slide. So this is just to go a little bit deeper if you're kind of wondering what these apps look like. So on your left, you could see that on the left side of the screen, you can see what the app would look like for the person living with type 1 diabetes. So like I said, you can see both pump information. We can see those little pink dots if you really squint really closely. When the insulin was delivered through our background insulin, you can see the blood sugar lines. You swipe over, you can see time and range. I know in the teacher group, we were talking about like being in the green and those types of things. So you can see all that information as the person living with diabetes. And then if we look over onto the other side of the screen, we can see exactly pretty much the same thing that the care partner could see. So you can have up to 5 care partners. So whether that's, the teacher is going to follow or mom and dad, whoever would have access to that as well and be able to receive those alerts. So that's such an important factor of being able to now connect to smartphones. Next slide. Another important thing is access, right? And I think that was on one of the poll questions as well, is the access to this technology. And we understand how important CGM is, having sensors and that technology to run things like auto mode, to be in automation. So for those people that do not have any coverage whatsoever, then you can apply for the CGM access program. So it just makes it $99 a month for the CGM access. And then that way you can have sort of the full scope of technology. And I think CGM has become such a pivotal, role in how we manage diabetes. In all the conversations I've heard, people were referencing that, and that's what they use to sort of guide their management and teachers to kind of give it an idea. So this program is great for that. Next slide. So I know this was really brief, but I know that the cutoff time is at 8:30. So I'm just trying to keep the time in mind. So definitely, if there are any questions regarding the pump, CGM, the access program, we do host monthly webinars as well. So you could always pop onto one of those if you're looking for more information, but you can always also give me a call or email. I can always reference you to your local representative. I know we're across Canada right now, so definitely you can always reach out with any questions you have. But so thankful to be here. I know my colleague Catherine is here as well, and I'm sure she's learned a lot too from hearing from everyone, and just really understanding that this is a whole community and it takes a village. It really does, and I can see that passion from every group, the students, the teachers, and the parents. So thank you so much for inviting us to be here today.
Nice.
I don't know if you had a question, Morgan, or we're just high-fiving me.
No, sorry, I did have a question.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I see that it connects to the phone. So if you had like an Apple Watch or a secondary device, could you use that as well?
So we do have a compatibility list. So right now it's not compatible with your Apple Watch. So definitely just keep an eye on the compatibility list online, because it will constantly update as they sort of grow what it is compatible with. But it definitely will connect, like for an iPhone, it will connect to your iPhone.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So it'll connect to other types of devices still though? Like they're like
Samsung or LG.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So there's different wide variety. So definitely if you're looking for your device to see, then you can either send me an email, I can send you the link, or you can find it on our website just to see what phone, and if you are having care partners, then they can also check their compatibility as well. Perfect, good question. Is there any other questions? or anyone wants to high five. Perfect. I see your comment, Noah. That's awesome.
And just so you know, I'll be sending out Kayla's contact information and some of the information from her slides with all the other documents that I promised that I would send out. So everybody will have a chance. If you do have questions about that technology and Medtronic products and programs, you can definitely get to do that. We do have some Medtronic supported programs coming up at Sugar Valley Farms, which is our newest outdoor adventure venue. So I'll be sharing those with you as well. It's mainly outdoor programming. It's going to be a lot of fun for families. There's some specifically for teens, some for the younger ones. So looking forward to meeting some of you out there. If you're in BC, we'll be out there soon, maybe World Diabetes Day and Calgary.
And so what we want to do with the Q&A is you're welcome to hang out here, but it is closing in on 8:30. So feel free to jump off if you need to. But one thing that I wanted to leave you with as a final thought is that, you know, as an athlete living with diabetes, I was able to train on the Olympic rowing team. And my coach told us that there are peaks and troughs. And this wasn't just for me with diabetes, but he was saying that any athlete is going to go through these ups and downs. So there are going to be hard days for the teachers. There are going to be great days for the teachers. And likewise for us as parents or youth going to school as students. And so just trying to keep that in mind and supporting each other through those hard days. And if we can do our best on our hard days, then that'll still be preparing us to do our best on our great days. And that's what he just continuously reminded us during our practices. And there were some hard days of practice, just as you are experiencing trying to figure out how to work with diabetes at school. So if you are stepping off, we really appreciate you being here. And if you want to stay around and hear some questions, you can type them into the chat or you can raise your hand. And you're certainly welcome to give emoji faces to any questions or answers that you like. Thanks again for everyone for joining us tonight.
Chris, Dave and Lily had a hand up.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
How's everyone doing?
We're good.
Awesome. I was just curious about this 5-person limit. Is it a 5-user limit or is it a 5-device limit? Because I could see running out of users very quickly if it's 5 devices, running out of like access.
Yeah, so for the actual, like the 5 care partners, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, so I believe it's just 5 accounts. Maybe Catherine, if you're listening, you could just clarify if it's in regards to like how many times the app. I think it's the 5 accounts, care partner accounts. Catherine, are you there?
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's the actual app, so I think you would be okay, but how about I just don't want to say the wrong thing, but yes, in terms of the app, and I'll send the information to Tracy about the care partner apps, and she can include it in the email after the event.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm interested in the data sharing part of this, especially after today hearing people sharing their app with their teachers. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we can definitely connect after this as well, just to cover it all. Good question.
Questions. Let's see. Did we miss anybody in either of the sessions who still wanted to ask a more general question? I know we had some great discussions.
There's a mention here about joining a science class, and we have done even high school biology classes and chemistry classes, as you know, there's quite a good tie in there. So we'd love to follow up with you about that, and we can adjust our Diabuddies talk to be a lot more sciencey, but we've gotten a lot of reviews about speaking at the kindergarten age level so that they understand and can connect with their, you know, at their level. So thanks for sharing that.
The science behind that nasal spray is so interesting. It blows your mind the way it works.
Thanks, Noah.
All right. I think I can see everyone. All right, last call for questions. Allison, Fergie, Lucas, Jill. Oh, Jill left.
I just shared the information about the Medtronic pump to the parent, and she said that it's not available for kids yet. Is that correct?
Sorry, which, what's not available for kids?
The Medtronic pump, like,
No, it has an indication for ages 2 and over.
so it is. Okay, so I'll let her know to contact you because they
Yeah.
haven't gotten a pump yet. They
Okay.
just had their training yesterday with their care team for it, like the online training, and then they're in the wait to get the little guy set up with a pump, and he's 4. So
Okay, yeah, for sure. So you can definitely pass along my information, and then depending where they're located, I could set them up with their local rep. But yes, 2 indication is for 2+.
okay, yeah, they're with the London care team in London, Ontario. So.
Okay, that's where I am actually. So that's perfect.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
You might even know this family then.
Yeah, that's
Okay, perfect. I'll let them know to contact you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Kayla, do you want to share your email maybe once more in the chat? Just in case anybody.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I'll type it in there.
Anyway. All right, Chris, any final words? I think tonight's been fantastic. Thank you to everybody who joined us. And thanks, Morgan, for coming out and having some fun with the kids. Thanks, Emery, for all your help behind the scenes.
Yeah, I just think that this community is so strong together. So it's been a pleasure. And if you haven't heard, we would love to have our gamification of the discovery of insulin come to your school. It's one of my personal favorites. But we'd love to hear any of your feedback. So please make sure to share it with us. And thanks to all of our team members and our community for being here. Have a great night.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
This was so much fun to be on. I learned quite a lot and I shared quite a lot, and everyone learned, which is really important so we can manage our diabetes better, you know? It's very good.
That's the plan, man.
And not just learning, Noah, but also gaining confidence. So by you kind of seconding that teacher who was speaking about kind of thinking about giving that student a chance to do things for others, I think that was a really good opportunity to just really cement that for her and for me as well, that this could be a positive thing to do for the class. So good job giving feedback.
All right, I don't really think anyone else has questions.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night.
This was so much fun. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna go now.
Hi, Dave.
Thank you.